about the unacknowledged special access program called Immaculate Constellation, and the second section about USG imagery intelligence. And Representative Luna just told me if I say Immaculate Constellation, I'll be on some list, maybe a FISA warrant. So come at me, bro, I guess.
Right. Okay. How was that? That was better. Right. Okay.
I couldn't hear anything.
Yeah, you're gonna have to listen.
I'll just listen. Fine.
You're gonna have to listen to it on the thingy. Sorry.
Fine. Whatever.
Right. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the UAP House Oversight Committee on. It was held yesterday. It only lasted just over an hour. By the time they stopped mucking about. I'm not going to show you the first 30 minutes. In fact, I'm not going to show you any of it. I'm going to show you clips from it. And then Ed and I and you and I, people can discuss the clips. So the next clip is coming up.
Imagery from 2017 that depicts a UAP. What were the dates in 2017 when this occurred?
I can't share with you the details, ma'am, but I can do it in a closed setting, and I can also tell you the agency that wrote a report on it.
Okay, so who has the imagery?
I can tell you that in a closed setting.
Can you describe what was depicted in the satellite imagery? Just a description.
It was a UAP, ma'am.
That's it? No other description?
The term that the analysts used, they called it the button. It was a disc-shaped object.
Okay, where was it?
I can't tell you that, ma'am.
Okay.
A button.
Yeah, but so we're now. She's asked like 3 questions, and almost every one of them's been, "I can't tell you. I can't tell you. I can't tell you. I can only discuss it in a closed session." What is the point in having these things? Because you're going to see this as a theme, people. These guys are sitting there and they're saying nothing. This is a complete and utter waste of time. So this guy is apparently an admiral. His name's Dr. Gallaudet or whatever. But he works for NOAA, which is
Gallaudet.
Gallaudet, yeah. He works for NOAA.
It's a French name.
So yeah. He's an admiral.
The same people that fake temperature stations.
Yes. Well, they don't fake it. They just creatively make it up.
They're freaking ghost stations. The Met Office has got something like 325 of them, and like 110 don't exist, and they just make the data up because it's the only way they can support their stupid narratives.
Right. So here we go. So we'll see what our next questions are.
All right. Okay, Mr. Elizondo, you state in your testimony that, quote, advanced technologies not by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe, end quote. If these technologies are not made by any government, who's making them? Private companies, or are you implying they are crafted by a non-human intelligence?
Well, ma'am, that's precisely why we're here. The problem is that, temporally speaking, over decades...
Right. Hold on a second. I consider
this
myself,
is exactly why I didn't watch this nonsense.
Yeah, I know, but I consider myself fairly erudite. But what does temporally speaking mean?
Temporally speaking means, well,
is he talking about
means
in the course of time? Yeah. But why doesn't he just say that? Why is he being such a little knob? And you think he had a great head of hair, but he's really, really going bald at the back.
Well, that's Elizondo. I mean, he's about as credible as freaking Nick Pope.
Oh.
In other words, not at all.
There you go. Right, here we go. More.
Decades, not just the last 10 years. Before, to put this in perspective...
Are these private companies you're implying, or is this non-human intelligence?
It may be both.
Okay.
When it comes to Blue Force Technologies...
It may be neither.
I would not be able to discuss.
Okay. Are you read into secret UAP crash retrieval programs?
We would have to have a conversation in a closed session, ma'am.
See what I mean? What is the freaking point? This is ridiculous. You know, and these things cost a minimum tens of thousands of pounds to carry out, and sometimes they run to hundreds of thousands of pounds, you know, for an oversight committee. This is just such a monumental
Which explains
waste.
why the US government is in so much debt.
Yeah, it's such a monumental waste of time, money, and resources. And keep your eyes on the background, because you will see people there that you know, okay?
Signed documentation 3 years ago that restricts my ability to discuss specifically crash retrievals. I submitted for my book through the DOPSR process, which took a year for it to be reviewed. And what is in the book is what I was told I'm allowed to talk about.
Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, were they designed to identify and reverse engineer alien craft?
Hold on, he was told he couldn't talk about crash retrieval programs. He just talked about them. He just said yes. He's a liar.
Well, duh.
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes.
I mean, you were expecting
Does the U.S.
anything else
government have
from
any
him? I've
reverse?
seen him in
Okay, we've
so
already answered
many
that question
different
about retrieval
UFO
programs.
documentaries
Do any U.S.
shows,
contract?
and
Sorry,
it's
you're
always the
talking.
same.
Right.
Sorry?
Sorry, you were talking. Carry on.
No, it's fine. I've seen Elizondo in so many different UFO documentaries, and
Oh, he's everywhere.
I mean, he's up there with Nick Pope. There's another guy with glasses. Got really, I can't remember his name. He's got a really round face, and he was bawling his eyes out on one of them about some nonsense. I mean, and they're so they're just so obviously planted.
Not what's his name? Oh God, Chiswick. What's his name? No, not Chiswick.
I'll be able to tell you. I just have to do a quick
Childress,
search.
David Hatcher Childress. No,
I don't know.
blonde guy.
Let's just have a
No?
quick look. It'll come up in a minute. I just have to do a search for UFO researchers, and he's almost always in there.
He does say that a few times. You're right, Gunky. He says it's all in my book. Anything he can talk about is in his book. Mark, I've got his book, but I haven't read it yet. So I will need to read it. Where's the meme guy? You mean Giorgio Tsoukalos? Giorgio.
Oh, for crying out loud! The one time I'm trying to find the bastard, I can't
Right, I'm
find it.
gonna play that song just
Yeah,
now.
no, keep going. I'll keep looking.
Right.
For it to be reviewed. And what is in the book is what I was told I'm allowed to talk about.
Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, were they designed to identify and reverse engineer alien craft, yes or no?
Yes.
Does the U.S. government have any reverse, okay, we already answered that question about retrieval programs. Do any U.S. contractors have the same?
I would prefer to address that in a closed session, ma'am.
Okay. In your book, you
session.
mentioned government employees who've been injured by UAPs, placed on leave, and receiving government compensation for their injuries. Is that correct?
That is correct.
How can the government deny we have recovered craft if they're paying people because they've been injured by recovered craft?
Ma'am, that's a great question. That's why I think we're here again, because I've seen the documentation by the U.S. government for several of these individuals who have sustained injuries as a result of a UAP incident.
It's a crazy idea, right? The hypocrisy and the logic. Okay, Mr. Schellenberger, I'm going to say it again to be very clear. Immaculate Constellation.
Right, so now we're going to Schellenberger. Now, this guy doesn't work for the government. Has never worked for the government. He's a journalist, and this is the guy that has multiple sources or whistleblowers, if you will. Okay, now remember, these guys are all on oath. They took an oath before they started testifying here, so everything they tell you should be the truth. But I think we can actually prove that some of them are lying at some points. But anyway. Sorry, Ed, have you got information?
No, I'm still trying to find it.
Right.
I was looking for the bloody just
Okay.
having problems.
So here's Schellenberger.
What's its mission and how are they funded?
Its mission is to, as I stated, its mission is to, it's an unacknowledged special access program. Its mission is to document UAPs.
Okay, and do you, for your story and your
Right, so he's talking about Immaculate constellation watch, which he has
Really?
produced. He has produced a document, okay? And I sent that document to you. It's a 12-page PDF. I'm convinced you never read it, okay? But that document is produced by Michael Schellenberger, and one of his sources wrote it. You will notice there is no word of who wrote the document on the
I
document.
did read it, by the way.
Oh, well done. And
That skinned it.
the document says very little, Ed. Did it strike you as a document of evidence?
No, not at all.
No, basically, it's
More a document of suppositions and rumors and
stories, yeah.
unqualified statements and stories. And I mean, I was actually really surprised to see Schellenberger mixed up in all this, because I didn't realize he had a UFO thing going on, because the stuff that I've seen from him, certainly on Twitter, he strikes me as a more sort of geopolitics and politics focused person rather than UFO stuff. But maybe he's a fan of the X-Files. I don't know.
I think there's money to be made in the UFO thing.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, this is why these people are bloody doing it. It makes you wonder how much frickin' Elizondo's made on it.
Well, yeah, and we'll come into Elizondo's stuff, because he's going to make some statements that are blatantly untrue, or as far as I can make out, and the US government and other third parties, nobody will back him up on it, except for the true cult. Because this is like everything else. There's a cult behind it that are nothing but true believers. But anyway, let's carry on.
Report. Do you have more than one credible source?
I do.
Sourcing, okay.
I do.
And then why do you believe your sources to be credible? How do you judge the veracity of the documentation you've been provided about this program?
I checked the sources, and they are who they say they are. They are current or former government officials. I wanted to also add that I did not specify that they were Defense Department employees. I didn't specify the agency.
So these guys could be working for the New York Department of Sanitation, couldn't they? Really? I mean, like, this could be me. I'm a former government employee. Am I not?
Well, yeah. I mean, you could go up and claim that you have some sort of story and do a whole thing where you basically say, no, you can't answer that question unless it's in a closed session, and then write a book.
Exactly, because I've signed the Official Secrets Act, so I could say, I'm sorry, the Official Secrets Act prohibits me from saying any more about that. And they would just have to go,
Why
wow.
why go into Congress in front of a camera if you can't say anything about anything? I mean, it's just
exposure. Because they've just got a book out, mate. He's got a book out. He's got to get the book out. I'm surprised he hasn't got the book on the desk in front of him.
Yeah, in a nutshell.
Nor the gender.
I mean, the whole thing is
Would they have incled non-government employees, people that aren't employed by the government?
I don't even know.
These are. I'm comfortable saying that these are government.
I thought I'd started again. Sorry. Right. Well, she was asking if he's included non-government employees. And he's getting very shorty now because he doesn't want to reveal his sources. What's the point? What's the point in having sources if you can't reveal? And, you know, I know there are certain things you're going to blow the whistle on that you can't tell people, but you have other evidence to back it up in that case. There's no evidence here to back up anything. Nobody's got any evidence. And we'll hear some crackers later on when they actually start asking proper direct questions. Haven't we all, Ray? Haven't we all at some point in our life or another worked for a military contractor? But anyway, let's carry on. I shall carry on.
Or previously government employees.
Any of them currently employed by a private contractor or private contractors?
I'd rather not say.
Okay. What's the key takeaway, just a few seconds, about the Immaculate Constellation document you provided us today?
I think that what the American people need to know is that the U.S. military and intelligence community are sitting on a huge amount of visual and other information, still photos, video photos, other
Okay, you know
sensor
that.
information, and they have for a very long time. And it's not those fuzzy photos and videos that we've been given. There's very clear
High res.
images, high resolution.
How many visuals, graphics, videos, photos?
I mean, I've been told hundreds, maybe thousands. I mean, I also wanted to say, because there was some conversation around concern around the revealing of these materials, revealing the source collections, but some of these are shot from helicopters using normal videos of oceans. I just think.
Right. So you're talking about there are high-res videos. Most of the videos that we've seen have been gun camera or FLIR. Okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
And most of that's coming out of F-18 Hornets, which are the Navy's plane of choice at the moment. On aircraft carriers. Now, because most of these were shot early 2000s, and 480p is high resolution, mate. That's as high as it gets. So there aren't thousands of high resolution images lying about, because what you're getting is the gun camera image. That's all they get. So you don't get a better resolution than what you've actually seen. The resolutions are shite. FLIR's awful. You ever been out in the helicopter using FLIR? It's really freaking. I mean, first of all, you go in a helicopter, it vibrates like, right? Your eyeballs dance around in a helicopter, right? I mean, there was do you remember Horizon, Ed? The science program. I'm pretty sure there was an episode once, and it was showing you some guy's eyes when he was in a helicopter and how much your eyeballs move. But helicopters are a nightmare. Then you stick a FLIR on it, on the front or underneath it with a gimbal, and it's crap. I mean, how do you think that 90% of these searches miss the person that they're trying to find, and then somebody on foot stumbles over them? Because these things are actually crap. Right. Yeah. Shall I continue?
Feel free.
You can stop looking for that, because everybody's lost interest in that now. We've forgotten about it,
Fuck off.
That's absurd that somehow you're going to be revealing some secret U.S. technology by revealing that you've photographed orbs off the coast of Kuwait.
Okay, thank you. I have 8 seconds. Mr. Gold, did the NASA independent study team get briefed on what you call OSAP? Very quickly.
I flagged the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Application Program to our chair and our DFO. We did not get briefed, but I believe it is definitely worth looking into. That was probably the largest UAP review effort ever, and I think produced a lot of interest data, including revealing Nimitz. I don't know.
Right. He's talking about OSAP, which is the actual program. I don't know how much. I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but I am going to I'm doing a video on OSAP, and it will knock your socks off. This is the biggest waste. In fact, this is the biggest LARP I've ever seen. It's absolutely tremendous. The Pentagon didn't have a freaking clue, but they were taken for such a ride that OSAP is just incredible. And Elizondo's trying to say he was, well, I don't think he is saying he's the director of OSAP, because he says his program got renamed to ATIP. ATIP never fucking existed. ATIP was a nickname for OSAP because they had to call it, they had to keep calling it different things so nobody found out how they were squandering money. And I'll tell you how they were squandering money in the video, because it really is literally freaking hilarious. This is unbelievable what they did. But we'll keep that one for another day. Do you notice any of the people in the background there, Ed? Do you notice? See the guy looking at you right now, off the guy's left shoulder? That's James Fox, filmmaker, filmmaker and producer of The Phenomenon. where he spent ages going around Brazil and came up with Diddly Squat. I mean, complete waste of an hour and a half of watching.
Well, he probably directed this nonsense.
Well,
he probably directed this.
And You know who the guy over...
The whole thing is just so absurd.
And look who the guy over his right shoulder is. That's Jeremy Corbell.
He's right, yeah.
Jeremy
But I mean,
Corbell.
it's always the same faces that pop up in these things.
Of course
I'm
it
surprised
is.
Nick Pope's not there.
I would be surprised if Nick Pope's not there. I think he might be there somewhere because he lives in the States. But yeah.
Which is convenient for his fan base.
Yes.
Supposedly, he was.
Is Knapp in that? He's not in that photograph. Was Knapp there?
Don't know, but I've seen Nick Pope described by idiots in the media as Britain's answer to Fox Mulder.
The videos. Gunky's just made a cracking joke. He says I should look at all the footage and make an edit of anything that remotely suggests evidence. Nothing there. Right, I shall proceed again.
Of my fellow witness, Lou might want. He did yeoman's work
Well,
on
we
it.
knew
Might
it was
wanna
going to be a
comment.
disappointment.
Okay. All right. I'm going to turn to Mr. Moskowitz, who will be recognized for 5 minutes of questioning.
Right. Okay. So that was Nancy's questions over. My God, there's another 11 clips to go. But we've got Mrs. Bobert next, or is it Miss Bobert or Mrs. Bobert? I can't remember. But anyway, let's have a listen to Bobert's questions. It gets better though. Wait till you get to Luna. She goes off the reservation.
Are there any known
It's
instances?
Bobert that goes off the. Sorry, it's Bobert that goes off the reservation. This is tremendous. Where do you hear that?
Are there any known instances of recovered materials or technologies that are not of human origin and maybe connected to any advanced bioscience defense programs within the USG?
I don't know.
I wouldn't be able to answer that, ma'am.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, so there are rumors that have come up to the Hill of a secretive project within the Department of Defense involving the manipulation of human genetics with what is described as non-human genetic material, potentially for the enhancement of human capabilities, hybrids. Are any of you familiar with that? Yes or no?
No, ma'am.
I am not, ma'am.
I'm not.
No, ma'am.
Okay, I would like to know, with Immaculate Constellation, how does this relate to UAP activities, Mr. Schellenberg, in oceanic environments? Are there any instances where the Navy or other maritime forces have encountered UAPs that could not be explained by known technology or natural phenomena?
This is painful.
Yeah, the Immaculate Constellation covers both terrestrial and oceanic, and there's actually a number of cases described in the report that occur in the ocean.
And do you believe that there is a concerted effort by the Pentagon to keep Congress out of the loop regarding these UAP activities, specifically in our waters?
Yes.
I think it's about 5% of our ocean that's actually been studied in detail by man, and we've studied more of space than we had of
Maybe
our
we can
own
get our
oceans. And so, are there
special subject, the bleeding obvious?
The crack if we got one of these on the show, wouldn't it?
Honestly.
But you got to keep listening because she goes even further.
any accounts of UAPs emerging from or submerging into our water, which could indicate a base or presence beneath the ocean's surface?
I don't know about a base, but as I mentioned, I had a different source entirely describe this pretty extraordinary footage that exists of orbs, of an orb coming out of the ocean and being met by another orb.
Some would say that there's multiple hotspots where we see frequent activity. So in your investigations, have you come across any data or visual evidence like sonar readings or underwater footage of these UAPs?
I have not beyond what's in the report.
So that's Lauren Bobert, Shalini. She's
Well,
the
then
one that was snogging at was it the baseball game or something?
Yeah, no, there was a whole scandal with her
Yeah.
where she got divorced and then she was with some guy and she slapped him and she was really drunk and throwing her weight around.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah. But yeah. If you look, I mean, alien hybrid. She's been watching the X-Files. I mean, these are plots straight out of the X-Files. And that undersea UFO thing, that's straight out of Shadow. That's one of the plots in Shadow. Colonel Foster and and Commander Straker, they put on their scuba gear and dealt with that alien. So it's all done and dusted. They blew it up.
You've written about UAPs not only in the air but in underwater.
I
Are there
don't
any
even know what the
specific
four jokers are sitting in.
I started again.
specifics on what you've learned about the UAP activity in our oceans? Particularly, have you spoken with sources who have provided any evidence or eyewitness accounts of these UAPs interacting with our naval forces or being detected by our underwater surveillance systems?
Nothing beyond what's in the report and then the specific case that I mentioned with the orbs.
So this report says it all. There's no other information that we are aware of regarding the activity within our waters.
I have other sources that have told me that have shared a significant amount of information, but they're not comfortable with me sharing it at this point.
I have sources,
Okay.
but I'm not
Are there
telling you who
any
they are.
technological capabilities observed in these oceanic UAPs that seem to defy our current understanding of physics or our engineering capabilities?
It seems like they all do.
Yes, I would agree with that. My time is up, but I do appreciate.
Bit of ego stroking going on there. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I mean, the whole thing's ridiculous, isn't it?
I mean, it's a farce.
Yeah, it is. I don't know why they do
And
this.
I mean, I thought it was going to be a farce when I first heard about it, which is why I didn't watch it, because they've had these sorts of things before. And it's always the same nonsense. It's always the same very vague descriptions of reports from people who have spoken to people and they can't say anything because they're not allowed to or whatever. I mean, and it's just, I don't even know why they bother. Maybe they just had money for their congressional budget that they needed to spend or something.
They've obviously got hard on for it. I mean, you'll notice that most of the people on the committee are, for some reason, quite hot women. That I don't know why, but they seem to have this kind of hard on for UFOs. Anyway, who's next?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Elizondo, Mr. Schellenberger notes in the report that we've been given for this hearing. I believe, Mr. Schellenberger, let me shift you, are the author of this report.
I'm sorry, sir, I'm not the author
Mr.
of.
Name's not Schellenberger.
Were you the author of this report? There's
No, I was
no
not.
name on it.
No,
Do you know the author?
I do.
You do. And how would you estimate that
This is
madam or
Immaculate
gentleman, the
Constellation.
author?
The person is a current or former U.S. government employee.
And it states here that this is the public version of the author's report.
Yes.
So where might one find the non-public version of the author's report?
I don't know the answer to that.
Could that be with the Department of Defense?
I don't know.
That's just ridiculous. I mean, this guy doesn't work for the Department of Defense, right? So any report that he's had written for him, right, should be public. And this is that Immaculate Constellation one that we've shown you, that you've shown us, or I've shown you, and he won't tell you who wrote it. So what's the point? I mean, this could be written by the janitor. It could have been written by the janitor's cat.
With a name like Immaculate Constellation, which is just the most absurd name for a classified. But I mean, classified projects have absurd names, but Immaculate Constellation, it's like the name of I don't know, some Jesus-themed porn film or something.
No. Right. I shall proceed because this is only a short one. There's only another 50 seconds.
But you do know the author.
I do.
You know what the author's sources were?
The author's sources are described in the report. These databases, the Immaculate Constellation.
Right, but you expressed some confidence in the sources
I would.
earlier in
I do.
testimony. You expressed confidence. So do you know those sources?
I do.
Are they within the Department of Defense?
I can't say.
You can't say or you won't say?
I won't say.
Okay, why not?
Because I protect my sources, and I think the
But
reason.
you're not naming them. It's a big department. But many of us on my side of the aisle would say it's far too big. So you're talking about the Department of Defense, sources from within the Department of Defense?
I'm not willing to reduce the
Okay.
potential universe of where my sources might be.
Okay, move.
I mean, see what I mean? What's the point? What's the point even turning up?
What's the point in any of it?
Sell
Literally,
books?
what is the
The only
point
one
in
I can-
any of it?
The only one I can see that's got any point being there is Elizondo, because he's selling a book. And do you notice when people ask him things, he generally says something about like, I wouldn't be able to tell you that, to make him sound like he could tell you, but he's not allowed to, you know. Because the others were
Well, yeah,
all
he probably
at one
doesn't
point.
know.
Oh no, he doesn't. I'm sure he doesn't know, because he's not. You got to remember, in the time scale that Elizondo's talking about for these projects, this OSAP and ATIP and all that, he wasn't a Defense Department employee. He was a civilian contractor. He'd left the services by the time he was doing this stuff. So he was flying a desk. And most of this is in his head. It really is. The guy's he's lost it.
I just can't believe we're even talking about him like he's a serious person.
People take him seriously. People
He's just
take
not-
him seriously. I've had people on Twitter today defending him.
I'm sure.
Saying, I think he's put a lot
Well,
on
yeah,
the
but
line. He's
take
put his
the ancient aliens guys
Yeah.
seriously
Yeah,
too.
but people
mean,
are on
people-
Twitter saying that Lou Elizondo has put his life on the line to bring us this. To bring us what?
Bollocks.
To bring us what, though?
He's not brought us anything.
Exactly.
He hasn't brought us anything.
Exactly. And the thing is, there's at one point in the thing he tells Nancy or whatever, that it took a year to get clearance from the DOD for his book to be published. So he's either still working for the DOD or he's working in concert with them. This is just ridiculous. There's no,
Well,
there's nothing. There's nothing.
probably
Nobody's blowing whistles anywhere here. Right, carry on. Sorry.
He's such a plant. Elizondo above all of them is such a plant. He's a disinformation spreader.
Yeah, I
Or
don't
bullshit
like.
spreader,
I don't
if you're
like.
being a bit less charitable.
I don't like Grush. Right. I think he's got a really weird manner about him. In fact, there's something about him, and this might sound bizarre, but something demonic about him. You know what I mean? That guy Grush.
Which one?
Grush, David Grush. He's not in.
I'm
he's
not sure which one.
He's
Let
like,
me find a picture of him.
he's just weird. I just find him very, very weird. But notice he's not here. He's
Yeah,
not at
he's
this.
creepy looking.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, he's creepy looking.
he's got a really
He's
weird
got
manner.
he's got psycho eyes.
Mm-hmm.
He's,
Yeah.
he's got proper crazy eyes. If you do a Google Images search for him, there's one picture there of him where he's looking across his shoulder at the camera, and he
Yeah.
looks properly mental.
Yeah, yeah. They won't let them tell you if they tell them in private. They're not allowed to talk to us. They're talking about doing it in a SCIF, which is what is it? What's a SCIF stand for? Something compartmentalized information file or something. I mean, the whole thing's
Well, the skiffs they're basically soundproofed, bug-proof rooms in Congress where members of Congress are read into top secret stuff, and the whole room is designed so nobody can hear what's going on in it. And it's probably just where the security services placate members of Congress and just tell them a bunch of bullshit and then just go back to doing whatever the hell it was they were doing that there's no congressional oversight for. And
God, my mind's
yeah.
on overdrive. No, I can't say anything of what I'm just thinking about. Let me move on quickly. Espresso Mechanic TV has said Stephen Greer's another weird-looking cove. Yes, he is, isn't he? Stephen Greer, to me, if anyone was ever going to be a human reptilian, it's going to be Stephen Greer.
He is an odd one, and he can come across as oddly sincere, but then he can come across sometimes like he's just making all this shit up.
Yeah. What I don't understand is how does a medical room ER doctor, a medical ER doctor, get involved in this shit? You know,
I have no idea.
I mean, it's just, I mean, and it's not like us. We're involved in it in that we are having a laugh, talking to 19 people on a Thursday night, and maybe 100 people watch it. You know, but it's just he's been to Congress. He's briefed members of the Department of Defense. Yeah, the whole thing's ridiculous. He's a fucking retired ER doctor. You know, it's just weird. I think Soldier says Greer is jacked. I think he's a reptilian soldier. I think that's where he gets all that extra muscle. But he does look. He's got that weird. He's got that same David Grush grin. You know, almost like a Joker gone wrong. Yeah. 40 years of exposing nothing, Janet. That's what Greer's done. He's done nothing for 40 years, effectively. Right.
Apart from write books and make money with speaking tours. And
did you see Elizondo's last?
Greer claims that it's all spiritual, and you can will UFOs to appear and all this nonsense.
Oh, did he have that thing on the beach with the orbs?
No, he's properly into all of that. He has groups where they all get together in forests and shit and try and mentally communicate with ET.
Does he sell tickets?
Well, duh, obviously.
I think I should start a religion. I think that's the way to make loads and loads of money. Because let's face it, there's enough people out there who look at this with cultish behaviour anyway. You might as well just make it a cult. I think cult of UFO could be the next religion. Cult of UFO.
Well, some might argue for the people within. I mean, there are people within the UFO scene for whom it does seem actually to be a bit more of a religion than just something that they enjoy researching.
Yeah. Right, who's next? Oh, here we go. Here's Mrs. Luna. Mrs. Luna. She's on Nutter.
Thank you. I will now recognize Ms. Luna for 5 minutes of questioning.
Mr. Elizondo, to your knowledge, can you name the country and around time frame that the first back-engineered UAP program started?
Ma'am, unfortunately, I would not be able to have that conversation in public.
Can anyone on the panel name that? None of you? Okay. This next question is for Mr. Gallaudet. To your knowledge, have any USOs ever outpaced our submarines?
Yes, ma'am.
At what magnitude?
I don't have the exact speed, but again, a witness came to me, a credible former submarine officer who observed it on sonar data, and this was in the 80s in the North Atlantic during a storm, and it outpaced his submarine by.
See if something outpaces a submarine, is it not normally called a fucking torpedo? These guys are nuts. They're fucking nuts.
It's just, I'm to be honest, I'm actually amazed that these members of Congress didn't
laugh at that. I don't know how they keep a straight face. I do not know how they keep a straight face.
Well, they should have had all four of them arrested for just wasting their time.
Oh, right.
Orders of magnitude.
Are you aware of any hotspots that currently exist off our shores in North America?
Not with
Well, the Gulf
sufficiently
Stream's
credible data, ma'am.
Okay, we've heard reports of there potentially being hotspots, maybe enter and or
Whoa. See the background? Is that Leslie Kane? With the blonde hair and the glasses? Is that... It's her name's spelled Keen,
No idea.
Kean. That looks like Leslie Kane, who is the one that wrote or co-wrote the 2017 was it the New York Times article that kicked all this shit off, and it's full of factual inaccuracies. I think that's her. I think that's Leslie Kane. They're all there. They're all there. The cult's all there. They're in the background.
What else were you expecting?
Oh no, I was expecting. This is why this is brilliant, because I was expecting this. I tell you what though, what about Aquaman? I'm sure he could outpace a submarine. Could he?
I think he has done in. Has he done in a movie? I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, the Aquaman. I fell asleep halfway through all of them.
Nectar Reedus, his dad was a sonar operator in World War II. Is Nectar just talking shit?
Well, there's two types of sonar. There's passive and active. The active is where you send out pings.
Yeah, but hold on. Don't give me a sonar lesson. What age is Nectar Reedus?
Giving you a sonar lesson, you asked.
What age is Nectar Reedus? Ballpark.
He's older than 65.
All right, so that could have been in World War II. Well, could he?
His dad, his dad could have been. I'm not sure if he was.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I didn't realize Nectar Reedus was as old as that. Well done, mate. You've done well to last that long. Right. Sorry. Right. Yeah, I know. I mean, the whole thing's fucking ridiculous. Next.
Yeah, but he's young at heart.
He says he's 75.
Yeah, no, but he's young at heart.
Oh, his dad could well be. I've been in world. So I'm sorry for that. Hey, man, I am so sorry for doubting you. Imagine that. Imagine doubting Nectar Reedus. What a fool I am. I feel ashamed.
He's also pretty handy with an axe.
Yeah,
so
I'm sure he
out.
is. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed. I owe you a drink, Nectar Reedus. I'll buy you a drink the next time I'm down. Right. All we need is Linda Moulton Howe. Bloody hell. Oh, I saw a thing about her. She was getting interviewed by somebody and she flipped out. She went nuts because the guy called her out on something. And she just went nuts. I mean, absolutely nuts. These people are cultists. If you disagree with them, they will flip on you. Right. Anyway, let's listen to what Luna's saying.
entry and exit points. Have you heard of any of that?
I have it not, ma'am, but my colleague here, Mr. Elizondo, does discuss some USO activity that he's observed in certain DoD databases.
Mr. Elizondo, in regards to these aircraft being piloted by whatever they might be, non-human biologics, would you agree that it's...
Who brought that up? Who said that they were piloted by non-human biologics? That just came out of nowhere.
Well, it's a UFO. It's kind of a fairly safe assumption that it's. I don't know.
You're making leaps that you can't. You're catching checks your body can't keep up with, mate.
Fuck off.
likely that they are being piloted by some mind-body connection?
Ma'am, I think it is safe to presume here that they are being intelligently controlled because some cases seem to anticipate our maneuvers, and in other cases they seem to, I came across an email where the word stalked was used in a very secure email between Navy officers discussing their ships being pursued by a UAP.
In our previous panel, we had Grush, and he had testified to say that some of these were interdimensional beings. Can you speak on that at all?
Ma'am, I'm not qualified, certainly as a scientist or otherwise, to speculate points of origin. I looked at everything from a scientific perspective.
So he just said he's not qualified as a scientist to look at anything from that point. but he looks at everything from a scientific point of view. Make your fucking mind up.
If I was sitting in Congress, I would have just turned around and said, "Is there anything you actually do know?" Because literally, so far, they've just sat there and talked absolute bollocks about stuff. And I mean, this is all you could watch your average UFO documentary, and you'd see bloody videos of some of these USOs and some of the UAPs. And they just, I mean, they could have reported what they'd seen on videos they'd seen on YouTube and sounded more convincing than they sound. The whole thing is just I don't even know how to describe it.
You have to watch it live because but hold on. If you're watching it live and a tweet comes in from the chair, right? Now you remember you're watching this live and she's tweeting from the fucking chair that if she heals in a closed session one more time, she's going to lose it. It's incredible. Right, this was nearly finished, actually.
I mean, but what are they? Why was it? I don't understand why this whole thing was convened. I don't understand why these 4 jokers were summoned to testify before Congress under oath and just talk bollocks for an hour. I mean,
because the people demand disclosure. Don't you?
Well, yeah, but
demand disclosure.
But this is just a wind up. This is not disclosure. This is just them like dangling some weird shit in front of our faces.
2 secs.
I mean, the whole thing. Okay, I'm just going to rant for a little while. But the whole this is literally why I didn't watch it, because I mean, if you're going to call together the US Congress and you're going to get all these people and you're going to spend all that money, and it's some sort of hearing on UAPs. I mean, it's not a hearing on UAPs. It's 4 dickheads just sitting there saying, "I don't know," or "I can't talk about it," or "I'm not giving up my sources," or just go and have a look on YouTube and you can find a whole bunch of stuff that's more descriptive than what these idiots come up with.
Have the illusion destroyed.
Did you knock down your green screen?
No. The light's battery ran out.
Oh.
So the lighting went. So obviously that's why it was going all zzz. So I've stuck 2 batteries in it. I should have plugged it into the mains, to be fair, but couldn't be bothered. Right, sorry. So what were you telling them? Anything exciting?
Well, I was just outlining how the absurdity of the whole thing, just wasting loads of money and having these 4 jokers go in and say, I mean, why the hell were they even there if they don't really have anything they can talk about? And when it was announced, I was thinking current serving military officers, perhaps 1 or 2 in a uniform, or perhaps some shit we've never seen before, or some gun camera footage from an F-18, or it's just something other than Elizondo selling his book, Schellenberger destroying his credibility, and these other 2 idiots doing I don't know what. I mean, the whole thing, it's almost designed to make people who are interested in the UFO phenomena seem like cranks or people who don't know what they're talking about, or idiots.
Yeah. Right. Let's go to the next one, which is still lunar.
In excess of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 Gs.
So are you, I guess, would it be safe to infer that they're living?
Right. So just to, I'll restart this one. What he's talking about there is he's talking about the Gs that are pulled allegedly by some of the maneuvers that these, and we're saying craft.
2,000 Gs.
Yeah, but we're saying because of the maneuvers that they are seeing on the gun cam or whatever, they're doing a 2,000 G maneuver. And that's not, nobody could survive that, But
well, I mean, I think that when astronauts get blasted into space, allegedly, I think it's something like 8 or 9 Gs
Yeah.
that they have to put up with for about 8 seconds or something,
Yeah, I know.
or 8 minutes.
When a Formula One driver crashes into the wall, he can hit like 65, but it is only 4 milliseconds. But it still registers on the G meter because
But
every car's got a thing in it.
the thing is that if the only way that these UFOs/USOs could do what has been reported that they do by multiple eyewitnesses that are far more credible than these 4 idiots, that it all implies some sort of propulsion system that we don't understand, anti-gravity or something. And so if you have an anti-gravity system, then surely it doesn't matter how many Gs the craft is pulling.
It doesn't even it's worse than that, Ed, because what it actually means is that there's a fundamental flaw in our understanding of the universe, in the fact that generally our mathematics seems to be right when it comes to physics, okay? Because it's tested, and it's tested, like the theory is tested against practicality, and it seems to work. So the math seems to describe how things perform and how they behave and whatever. But the math can't account for anything
Yeah.
that's got mass to travel at these speeds.
Well,
So these things like inertial
no,
dampers
and
and stuff like that, they're not, that's not a logical thing that you can actually think about and build, right? You can't take away inertia from mass because the mathematics
well, no,
doesn't
but
let you do it.
we're basing. No, that's true, but we're basing things on materials that we know to exist on
It doesn't matter about
our
the
planet.
materials,
Now,
mate.
it's possible. Well,
It's the maths.
I don't know. Maybe there's
The
some,
maths don't allow it.
yeah, that we know of. I mean,
know,
it's like,
I'm the first one to say that there are lots and lots of things that we don't fully understand, but everything that we've applied to the universe with math seems to be more or less correct. Okay, and when I say more
well,
or less, within tiny
yeah, but that's
margins of error.
making the assumption that the math that we know about is the only math that exists that we've discovered. Maybe there's
that-
stuff that we don't know about. I mean,
and
the humans have not reached the pinnacle of knowledge.
but agreed, absolutely agreed. But and I'm no mathematician, right? But maths isn't a language, right? Maths is a description of how the physical universe works. And I think that's the difference. And this is the part that a lot of people don't understand. If the math and the universe are aligned, right, then it doesn't matter what kind of materials or what kind of energy sources that you come up with. You can't break the laws of physics, as Scotty would say. You just can't do it. And this is why when people
that you
talk
can't
about
that we know about.
no, see, this is the point. It doesn't matter if you know about it or not, because the math doesn't allow it. And it doesn't matter how much you extrapolate it. You can't, like, it's for instance, you cannot have something with mass going at the speed of light. It just doesn't allow it.
Yeah, but if you have some way of reducing the mass or some way of changing one side of the equation that we're not aware of, then suddenly the equation goes out the window.
Well, you're talking about magic. Really. That's what we're talking
Well,
about.
as Arthur C. Clarke would have said, any
but
sufficiently advanced technology will appear to those who are less advanced as magic.
Mhm.
That's the fundamental point I'm trying to make.
what? But the other point we have is the vast distances involved in getting here.
Yep, and there's various theories like wormholes or being able to bend space-time, things like that. I mean, the point is that we don't know. There may well be ways of shrinking that distance that
I want to
seem like
believe-
magic to us.
I want to believe, right, But
I'm not
when
saying I believe one
no,
way or the other, but I'd like to think that my mind is open
oh,
to
my mind's
acknowledge
open.
the fact that we don't. Well, I'm not saying it's not, but I just think that we are not taking into account the things that we don't know because we
Well,
don't know them.
yes and no, right? The problem is, right? The problem is, and it really only came home to me quite recently, I think, that the actual distances involved in space travel are way beyond anything that we can even conceive of. Never mind think about traveling. You know,
Hmm.
it's just absolutely incredible. With current tech, right? Current tech, it takes 800,000 years to get to our nearest neighboring star. 800,000 years just to get there.
Sure.
And you know,
But again, to
the
say
next
that I
galaxy is
mean, yes, with
25.
our current technology,
Yeah, but the next
but that's
galaxy is 25 billion light years away. 25
sure,
billion
no,
light
and
years away.
yeah, and if you tried to explain a rocket to someone 150 years ago, they would have
They'd
thought
get
you were
it.
completely
No,
mental.
they wouldn't. Not 150 years ago. I mean, the Chinese have been playing with
Right,
fireworks for 2,000 years. So we know how
all right,
that
200
works.
years ago. I mean, look, we've only had powered flight for a little bit over 100 years,
Powered flight, yeah. Okay. Well, powered
assuming
flight,
that the Indian Vimanas, I mean, okay, that we know of.
yeah, I know. I think the problem,
The point is, well, no, I just think that the point is that if we say that what we know about the universe and the tools that we have to describe the universe and the tools that we have to travel through the universe, whether that's just on our own planet or in a rocket or whatever, that is the limit of what's possible. To me, that's just crazy, because any sufficiently advanced society, extraterrestrial or future human society where they figured out time travel and they're coming back, or hollow earth society that went underground thousands of years ago because of a disaster or something and stayed down there, or a hollow moon society where there's some sort of, I mean, all of the different possibilities that we've hypothesized and speculated about on all of our different shows, that there has to be an explanation for these things. Forget about these four idiots sitting in Congress.
Mhm.
There's enough credible video footage and enough credible sightings, not all of them, but enough of a small percentage of them to make you think that there's something going on, whether it's terrestrial technology that we found, and whether it's from Antarctica or aliens or whatever, wherever it comes from. The fact is that we have observed craft breaking what we consider to be these laws of physics and this math that we know about. So they must be doing it somehow. And
Well, they don't need to be physical, do they?
not necessarily, they could
See,
be
there,
energetic.
right. So, see, there's a point that satisfies my criteria and yours. Because if they're not physical, then they can do that.
Or perhaps they are physical and they're able to somehow. It's like within Star Trek, the warp bubble, the way that a Starship Enterprise flies around in space is they create a warp bubble around the ship, and that actually displaces them from space
Yeah,
time and allows them to
but if you actually,
exceed the speed
yeah,
of light. Or you have the warp conduits where they enter a special tube that runs through space
yeah.
that has I mean, if you
No,
build two
I know what
space
you're
stations,
saying, but if you actually look at these things and apply what you would think would be, the actual science to do it, then technically you can do it, right? But the problems are that you need so much energy that it's,
yeah, but
unbelievable amounts of energy.
sure.
And the next thing is getting somebody into the bubble almost certainly destroys them. That's the problem.
Yeah, but again, we're talking about things from our current understanding. Now, if there's a way to encase the person in some sort of metal that we don't know about, or some sort of energy field that we don't know about,
Yeah,
and
well,
a sufficiently advanced civilization that can do this stuff, the first thing that they will have cracked to become a super advanced civilization is some sort of power generation,
yeah.
which we don't even understand
Mhm.
and can't even theorize, that gives them sufficient energy.
Yeah.
And if they have materials, metals or alloys or ceramics or whatever
Yeah.
that allow them to build a
I'm not
craft
laughing
that
at
can
you.
actually
I'm not laughing at you.
no, no.
I've come up
Mm.
with I've come up with something, and you know what you're saying all sounds perfectly feasible, right? And if
New donation from Nick Taradis.
I'm not sure it is. I'm not
no,
saying it is
we
for
just
sure.
got a
What I'm
donation.
saying is we've got to open our minds. Oh wow, excellent.
Excellent, thank you, mate. Right, so sorry, where I was if there's a possibility and that could apply, then fair enough. But but for a civilization to have gone that far, have gathered that ability to be able to use energy in such a manner, to be able to warp time and space so as to us it looks like magic, right? Okay, to do that and then come and take a cow's anus beggars belief.
Well, that's that. Yeah, I know. I agree with that completely. I mean, why the fuck would you come to some primitive little planet with monkeys that have got machine guns and start abducting them to experiment on them? Now, I have long suspected that a lot of the alien abductions, not all of them, but a lot of them, and certainly things like cattle mutilations and
Yeah.
stuff. I think that there is some nefarious human forces because I can't imagine, like you said, why the hell would you travel multiple thousands of light years
Mhm,
to visit a primitive planet which has got primitive creatures on it
mhm.
and then mutilate cattle?
Yeah, I know. Why would
I mean,
why
okay,
would
you want okay, you fancy some beef. Maybe you come to Earth and you see all the humans chowing down on steak, and you think, I fancy a bit of that. You take the whole cow
yeah.
and then you'd barbecue it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't mutilate it and leave it in the bloody field. I agree with you. That there's
And
I
and
mean that
and
that aspect of it.
by the same token,
Yeah.
people that say it's the government, right? No, no. If the government wanted to experiment on cattle, they would just have their own cattle and their own ranch. They wouldn't need to go and steal some farmer's cow and then put it back with a black helicopter, you know? I mean, there's just no point. Yeah.
Absolutely. It just, I mean, there are aspects of UFO lore that just don't make a whole lot of sense, and the cattle mutilations are one of them. I mean, maybe it's a cover for some creature. I mean, there's some stories that blame the chupacabras and things like that.
Right.
But then these cattle mutilations happen in different places, so you wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily expect the same
Yeah.
cryptid
So,
to be responsible for them.
absolutely. So, Robin, yeah, Alcubierre Drive, yeah, that's part of the problems is what I was talking about earlier applies to the Alcubierre Drive. And the next thing is Fluffy Columbus comes up with a cracker, right? It might have been annoying, Fluffy Columbus, but that means money came in, so we don't dissuade people from doing it. But what he's next come up with is, but what if they live on the earth? Now that then goes back to
Or
that
in the earth.
or in the earth or nearby. Yeah, then that's fine. But
Or in the ocean.
yeah, or in the ocean, yeah, that's fine. Although I find I don't see how I don't see how anything could develop any kind of electrical technology if you lived in an ocean. You know what I mean? Like you don't see dolphins with phones.
Well, no, I no, I don't necessarily think that, because particularly deep in the ocean, the kind of environment that exists down there is not conducive to life. I mean, yeah, you can have dolphins, and there are fish that are adapted to it. But in terms of high intelligence society, civilization, no. But if you're an advanced human civilization and you worked out the technological complexities of living, of having a habitat deep at the bottom of the ocean, it would actually be a good place to hide from the 12,000 year catastrophe cycle,
Yeah.
because you'd probably be relatively safe in the deepest ocean.
But why wouldn't you
But
come
there is
back up?
all sorts. Well, that's a good point. Yeah, and there's all sorts of challenges behind staying down there permanently, because if you actually build, I mean, if we're talking 3,000 meters, and you'd have to
Pressure
have some sort
affects
of structure. Yeah, I mean, even at 100 meters, the pressure is enough to impact a human body. And once you go down to thousands, you have to build very, very strong structures in order to withstand it. Now, maybe there's some sort of energy field that you can create, but then you'd have to have an unlimited source of power that wasn't reliant on external things.
Yeah,
And it's also bloody cold at the bottom of the ocean.
yeah. Because you need to provide heat as well.
And also because of the laws of thermodynamics, the water will suck the heat out of anything that gets
yeah.
in contact with it as well.
Right. Anyway,
Um,
let's shall we go back onto the thingy and get through these, because we've still got a
Yeah.
couple to do. Yeah.
Okay, let's just get them done, and then we never have to speak of this ever again.
I guess, would it be safe to infer that they're living craft?
Living craft?
I'm not prepared at this point to state for the record, is something alive or not, because even that definition is hard. There was a time in science we thought that life required oxygen, and we now know that's not true. There are anaerobic bacteria that thrive in oxygen environments that lack oxygen. And so also same with photosynthesis. When I was in college, I was told everything is derived from photosynthesis as a form of energy. In reality, that's not true. There are things that live off of chemosynthesis. So we're constantly having to reevaluate our understanding of what the definition of life is.
Do any of you ever come across reports from people that claim to have firsthand experiences with these entities, whatever they might be, or these aircraft, and then as a result, whether or not they're religious, find that these things will automatically disappear? Anyone, and this is open to any of you on the panel. So just real quick, because I'm running out of time.
Alonzo
Lou?
likes to talk.
Ma'am, I've always been a nuts and bolts kind of guy. When I was at ATIP, I was focusing more on the performance characteristics and less on the potential occupants.
Okay, the reason I ask is because it seems like, just based on our conversations, that we've had people that say that there are good and bad of whatever these things are. And so my concern from a national security perspective is A, that true? B, are you guys hearing the reports of that? And C, I think moving forward in regard to technology, Mr. Gold, if you can answer this real quickly, some of these aircraft, it seems that they are operating off of energy that we don't currently have. But just yes or no, in your opinion, if we were able to obtain that, would that impact humanity for the better or negative?
Would certainly save us some money on funding on Artemis.
Definitely.
And this is a national security issue, that if there is such technology out there, we're not the only country that might have access to it. We don't want to be on the wrong end of technological surprise.
Okay. Thank you guys for your time.
Do they want to use it to fight?
All right.
Yeah.
Are they going to teach their grandmothers to suck eggs as well? I mean, it's just that the level of questioning is infantile, because if it's such a threat to national security, and the Congress critter is so concerned about the safety of the United States, then why the hell aren't you getting serious answers from these idiots? And why don't you actually have some people in uniform that might actually know some shit? And it's all just speculation, and Elizondo wanting to sell his book, and I just, you can't even take it seriously. The questions aren't serious, the answers aren't serious, the people in the room aren't particularly serious.
Tell me it gets better.
I quickly became part of a program that was originally called OSAP that evolved into the ATIP, which is where those videos that we now see, the Go Fast, the gimbal, the FLIR, that was part of our effort, sir.
No, it wasn't. Those videos never came from OSAP or ATIP. Those videos came because the New York Times got leaked them That's how those videos came about. It's nothing to do with ATAP or OSAP. So you're a liar. You're a liar,
But we knew that
Elizondo.
already. I mean,
Yeah, but there's a point. There's a point where he is under oath. He is lying to Congress. That's
then
supposed
he
to
should
be
arrested
actionable.
and locked
Yeah, he
up.
should be,
And if they did that to him, then we wouldn't have to put up with him anymore. I think it's a great idea. Just lock him up.
I know.
Throw away the key.
So there's
Prevent
the
him
lie.
from ever writing another bloody book.
Right. Next, trans-dimensional travel. Okay.
Last question. Doctor, real quick, can you tell us about the Omaha incident in greater detail? I've read your background, right? Some people would label you as a member of the deep state since you worked in government for a long period of time. But can you tell us more about that incident? You've written a lot about that.
I wrote a lot about incidents like it, Congressman, but that specific incident involved the USS Omaha, the Littoral Combat Ship, again, something that was aloft but had no observable exhaust or control surfaces, so it was something that couldn't be explained, and then they saw it enter the water from the atmosphere and going through the air-sea interface, and so thus exhibiting trans-medium travel.
Thank you. I yield back.
Did you just go through the air-sea interface there? Transmedium travel.
I mean, it's just so much bollocks.
It's all, trust me, bro. This is the problem. This is the problem. You and I are sitting here arguing about theoretical maths and physics and the possibility of infinite energy in order to bend space and time, right? When these guys can't even tie their own fucking shoelaces. They really can't, can they?
It's like Elizondo not working at the ATIP. And I mean, you would think that these Congress people, before they actually get into a session with these four jokers, would actually know a little bit about them and would have their staff do a bit of proper bloody research on them.
Right. These guys had to submit everything they were going to say to the Congress people 2 or 3 weeks ago. They've got all the information, and they know all about them.
In that case, it's all just theatre.
They had a previous hearing with the same, more or less the same guys in it, especially Elizondo.
It's just in that case, it's just theatre and an excuse to piss away American taxpayers' money.
It is, mate. It is. It's the excuse for a fucking
Which is basically
right. The next one is a cracker. This is a cracker. See if you spot the deliberate mistake here.
Previous UAP hearing, Navy Commander David Fravor discussed the TikTok object engaged in 2004. Are you familiar with the incident, the TikTok incident?
Yes, sir.
And that's almost 20 years ago, right?
Yes, sir.
It's been said there are more videos, documents, and reports related to this incident. Do you believe the information regarding the TikTok incident should be available to all members of Congress? And in your expertise, what reason would the Department of Defense possibly have for not releasing information that's over 20 years old?
Thank you, Congressman. I don't think there's any good reason to withhold information and important data, especially of national security concern, from Congress.
Well,
did you not pick up on it? The TikTok incident.
I missed that.
Nobody fucking corrected him either. He must have said it 5 times. The TikTok incident. When he meant, obviously, the TikTok incident. Oh, right. We've only got a couple left. Yeah, we've only got...
Hallelujah.
We've only got
thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So, Mr. Gold, you gave a whole diatribe for a couple of minutes about UAPs, science, data collection, stigma. A lot of non-believers in all of this would just ask a very simple question. Why? Why is it so hard? Right? Like, why are people, anytime they ask, why are they always thwarted? Why are they always judged? Why is they always have misinformation spread? Why is there always retribution? Why is it always met with an ear? What's the why? If it doesn't exist, why is it such a problem?
I think if you go through the history of science, Representative, It is always difficult for breakthroughs and new information, regardless of whether it's UAP or any other kind of discovery. And in science, we're supposed to be open, but when you break with the orthodoxy of what's believed, whether it's Galileo saying that the Earth doesn't rotate or the Earth rotates around the sun or the sun doesn't rotate around the Earth, it's always challenging for new beliefs. And the more extraordinary those discoveries, the more extraordinary those new beliefs, it's very difficult. So I think this is natural. There's natural conservatism that when it comes to science, but this issue in particular has been very difficult where, again, even to attempt to study it becomes problematic. But every hearing like this, every news report, every video, documentaries. I was privileged to be a part of something Dan Fair is putting together. I think many of us have interviewed for it, documentary over 30 different government officials. Every brick in the wall will help get us closer to getting to the truth.
I appreciate that. Mr. Elizondo, did I have that correct?
Sir.
I'm a recovering lawyer, so I'm going to put my hat on for a second. You said you signed a document. Love that. Who gave that to you?
The U.S. government, sir.
Okay, you have a copy of it?
It is stored in a SCIF right now. I do not have possession of it. The U.S. government does.
What department of the U.S. government gave you this document?
I will say the Department of Defense. Unfortunately, I can't say in this forum much more than that.
You specifically said the document said you can't talk about crash retrieval. Well, you know, you can't talk about Fight Club if there's no Fight Club.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just making it.
Yeah. You can't talk about Fight Club if there's no Fight Club.
Just
You got it,
fuck
guys.
off.
It came eventually. What?
I just, I mean, I actually have to take my hat off to you for putting up with an hour of this nonsense. you took one for the team, because I even just listening to the clips that we've listened to is painful. I feel like scratching my. It's just.
Do you want them or not?
No, we'll watch them because you went to the trouble of snipping them out. But I honestly can't believe that people who are supposed to be important, busy Congress people trying to understand more of the truth about this UAP phenomena would actually take these four idiots even seriously. I mean, 15 minutes of this bollocks, and it would have just been, look, you're wasting our time. Get the fuck out.
Yeah, after the show's over, you and we'll talk about Fight Club.
I mean, why didn't they? If there's so much stuff that they can't talk about, and surely the Congress members going into it knew that they would say that because they handed all their shit over to start with. Why didn't they just do the whole thing in one of these skiffs? I mean, it's just such
because that doesn't play to the. See, if they do it in a skiff, nobody knows about it, and it doesn't play to the audience, you know, because the public demand disclosure. Disclosure. There's nothing to fucking disclose. You know,
it's like the deep state. We can say we're going to throw you a bone, and you end up with a bloody banana.
I'll put myself out here a little bit, but I don't think the government knows any more than we do.
Well,
I really don't.
Depends on what part of the government. I think there are some parts of the government.
No,
that
I don't think any of them do.
The other parts of the government don't know about.
Yeah, yes, there may well be, but as far as UAPs go, right, then most of it's explainable, right? See that last wee bit that's not explainable? It's not explainable, i.e. nobody has a fucking answer for it. Nobody. There is nothing to disclose because nobody's got the answer. That's the problem. Nobody's got the answers. That's just my view.
That explanation is as valid as the explanation that says that there's a deep, dark part of the government that knows all about it and is hiding it from us and from the rest of the government and everything else. I mean, both viewpoints are equally valid.
Yeah, because they're both unfalsifiable.
In terms of, precisely, and they could be true. There could be something else going on. I don't know. I mean, it could just be a massive, massive psyop that's been running for decades to cover something.
Oh, well,
advanced.
I mean, you know, the UFO thing was picked up as a psyop to cover, technology that they were developing. You've got to know that, right? And they've just
Well-
run with it to a degree. But there are still parts of it that are unexplainable, genuinely unexplainable.
Absolutely.
But,
And I mean, there is.
but nobody's got the.
we-
My view is nobody's got the explanation. There's nobody sitting ready to disclose anything because these guys are just, the people in real government that fucking are building all this fancy kit are thinking, what the fuck are these things? It's like we're back in World War II and the Foo Fighters. It's like, what is that that's following my plane? Because nobody knew.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's just my
and
view.
it
That's
could
just my
be-
view,
No, absolutely. But I mean, that's why we do the shows, is to speculate on this stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a completely valid viewpoint. Right? I mean, the thing is that there have been, okay, even if you can explain 95% of these sightings,
Yeah.
there's still that 5%, which suggests that there's some really strange shit going on that we don't understand.
All right. Yeah.
And we can speculate that it's aliens. There's reports of, there was reportedly a crash of something in the Black Forest in Germany in about 1936. We covered that on our UFO
Mhm.
show. And I mean, it was well known that there were certain German scientists in the 1930s and 40s that were working on some very crazy shit. I mean, Die Glocke and there's this, and these are not, they're not rumors. And so suddenly you have Operation Paperclip and you have a load of these German scientists that are sneaked over to the US and Canada and other places. And some of them ended up in Russia as well. And then suddenly, not that long after that, you end up with all these UFO sightings. I mean, who knows that the Americans...
The Roswell base was where they kept the atomic bombs.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the bombs were there. And I didn't know that the Enola Gay was at Roswell, right?
Yeah, the Roswell Army Air Base.
And it was full of fucking German scientists.
Mm-hmm.
So, they could either have been fucking about or they were, well, I'm certain they were fucking about with something. Something went awry and the whole UFO thing was probably going to be a cover story, and then they got cold feet and changed it to a weather balloon to hide the fact that they had a fucking pile of German scientists in the middle of America. Because this was 1947, remember?
Sure.
Just after the World War had finished.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, they might have captured a Hannibal, and I mean, Roswell Army Air Base.
Yeah.
It was one of the biggest bases in the US, I think, and also one of the most remote in terms of being out in the middle of bloody nowhere. And it's a logical place if you have military tech that you want to keep hidden. It's a perfect place for it. Especially in the 1940s when it was even more sparsely populated than it is today. And who knows? I mean, the Americans might have captured one of those Hannibal that we've heard reports of, and maybe they're flying that around and it crashed and they had to cover it all up, and then they thought maybe aliens was a bit extreme.
But you got to remember, people were primed, or they were starting to get primed for this kind of stuff, because that guy, the flying saucer thing, was that before or after Roswell? Was it just before? When he said he saw the planes flying without tails that skipped across the sky like saucers.
No, that was before.
So that was before. They were primed, because he never said.
He was a pilot.
Yeah, I mean, that guy never said they looked like flying saucers. He said they skipped across the sky like saucers. Because they were supposed to be like kind of Batman, that kind of weird shape.
When I mean, if you actually, if you actually look at the descriptions of what he describes, they don't look like saucers at all. It was, I mean, that's just the media.
Yeah, exactly.
Some journalists thinking, oh, flying saucers.
Nick Teresa's, yes, Foo Fighters were World War II. That's what I was referring back to World War II when I mentioned it. Right, let's get these next three done, or get one of them done anyway before we come back. Okay.
The primary reason you're here today is because you published an article on the news publication that you own called Public, right? Alleging that a new unnamed government whistleblower has come forward asserting that a highly classified program exists dedicated to recovery and reverse engineering of UAP technologies. Can you give us what specific evidence you have or that your source provided you to substantiate the claims about the existence of the Immaculate Constellation program?
Well, you have the report in front of you now, so you can see it for yourself. I checked the report, and I did not find it based on existing cases. It was new cases for me. I hadn't found anybody. So that answered for me that it was not obviously circular reporting, which is one of the big concerns in this space. I also had the name of the program confirmed by more than one additional source. So, yeah, and then of course, I checked to make sure that the source was who they claimed to be.
Okay.
I should also say that when I said before it was this database, it is a much broader program than that. It also includes human intelligence, and then, as you mentioned, the retrieval and the reversal.
Any knowledge of what country these things originated in?
No.
That was a big whole shit of nothing.
Hang on a minute. So Schellenberger writes an article, and on the basis of that, they convene this hearing. Am I understanding that correctly?
Remember the document, the Immaculate Conception document that you've got, right? Schellenberger's source allegedly wrote that, right? And Schellenberger wrote an article on the base on that, and that's why Schellenberger's at that hearing.
And they've hardly discussed the bloody thing for the whole hearing.
But there's nothing in the whole thing. You've read the document. What's in it? I mean, really, what's in it?
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
So they've basically just sat. That's why they had to bring Elizondo in to pad the time out.
Well, yeah, because that guy can talk. I mean, can't he?
Yeah. Except when he's, I mean, apart from when he's saying that he can't talk about the things, he says that quite a lot. I mean, the whole thing is literally just a complete waste of American taxpayers' money.
Yeah, that is me. Right. Next, Burleson, Congressman Burleson next.
View, and it states one of the reasons why my predecessor program, OSAP, was trying to collect material of unknown origin.
Was it successfully collected?
It was not. What happened is that there was an aerospace contract company that requested to divest itself of the material that was collected in the 1950s. Right. Unfortunately, that didn't actually occur.
So let's dive into that. That's the Bigelow Aerospace, correct? So
yes, sir.
There was a journalist, Christopher Sharp, who said that there was a transfer between Lockheed Martin, Bigelow Aerospace, and the CIA allegedly blocked this. Can you describe that?
What I can say is that it was blocked. Why it was blocked, I can only surmise. I was part of some conversations later on with some of those contract personnel where they had told all of us that is accurate. What we required was a memo from the Secretary of the Air Force in order to make that complete, and that never occurred. And so when Secretary Mattis became Secretary of Defense, I decided it would be appropriate for me to try to receive a memo from him as SecDef, as Secretary of Defense, if we could not get a memo from the Secretary of the Air Force to transfer that material.
So if that material exists today, who's in possession?
Sir, I wouldn't be able to have that conversation in an open hearing. We'd probably have to have that.
Okay, my question to you then is, if we were in a secure setting, if we were in a SCIF, would you be able to provide or get access to something, whether it's visuals or material that we could put our hands on, or biologics, that would convince me, that would show me that we have non-human origins?
Sir, that decision would not be mine. That would be to the gatekeeper still in the U.S. government.
And who would we, so if you were in our shoes, where would you go from here? How would you get that information? How would, a lot of times we just don't know who to ask because we don't know where to go next. So if you were in our shoes, where would you go?
Well, I prefer to answer that question in a closed session. However, we established Aero for that very purpose, and unfortunately, under its previous leadership, it failed. So one would hope that they would have the authorities necessary to do that. Let's hope that this new iteration of leadership will be successful.
In the discussions, it's simply about material, or is there discussion about it was previously testified that there was biologics that were collected. Are you aware of any of that?
I am, sir, aware of the reporting that biologics have been recovered. Again, my focus was more nuts and bolts, looking at the physical aspects of these phenomenon, how they interacted around military equities and nuclear equities. So I'm certainly not a medical expert. I would not be able to probably provide you a whole lot of value in that simply because I don't have the expertise.
But was anything described as that we have possession of bodies?
Yes, yes.
We have is it multiple types of creatures, or?
Sir, I couldn't answer that. I can tell you anecdotally that it was.
He doesn't have a fucking. He's spitballing now, isn't he? He is spitballing.
It sounds like he's been spitballing the whole bloody time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just he's just making shit up on the hoof now.
But I mean, that congressman is an idiot as well, because it's like, well, if there was such materials, who would we go and see? So I don't know. It's like, look, you're obviously, if you want to find that out, then you subpoena someone in the army or the Air Force or someone, but not some joker that's written books that makes all sorts of claims that are easily verifiable as nonsense.
Yeah, I know. It's like what did he say? He said that. What did he say? Oh, forgotten what he said. It really is all bullshit.
But that's why you forgot, because it's clearly not important enough to remember.
No, it's another fucking slip he made there about Arrow. He was talking about Arrow, which is all domain anomaly with resolution office or whatever. That was Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who was in charge of that and did a report into it. And basically, his report came back after 3 years, and I mean, he allegedly had evidence to everything that he wanted to in the DoD. He had top 10 and top 50 clearance, so he had the full gamut, and he said there's no UFOs and there's no aliens held by the government. That's what Arrow said, but he said Arrow failed. Well, Arrow didn't fail in doing anything. If it came to a conclusion, it came to a conclusion. There's no win or lose here, because just because it said there are no aliens doesn't mean the program, the project failed. It means it came to a conclusion. And if that conclusion doesn't suit Mr. Elizondo, who's trying to sell a book based on the fact that there might be aliens in the government, then that doesn't mean that it failed, does it? Does it?
No. But he would say that it does, because he's not getting the answer that he wants.
Of course he would. It's like,
but
I mean, he tells us he
Elizondo
was
is
a
literally one of the
director.
last people on the planet that you would tell. I mean, he's literally the last person on the planet you would tell.
Who? Elizondo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he tells us he was director of OSAP, which there is no documentation to substantiate, none whatsoever. We know who the director of OSAP was.
But I bet you he could show it. I bet you he could show you the documentation in a skiff.
Yeah. But there's no documentation, and the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, and third-party investigators have all said he was not part of any of those two programs. And I can tell you what he was doing. Basically, I'll tell you in my video. That's what I'll do. I'll tell you in my video to keep you going. I've got vested interests as well. I might even bring out a book. Right, okay. Let's go to Nancy. This is the last one. Nancy's questions, okay?
Thank you. I move to allow myself and the ranking member 5 additional minutes for questions without objection, so ordered. Mr. Elizondo, were you read into the Immaculate Constellation program?
I would not be authorized to confirm nor deny the existence of any ongoing or past
That would be a
program,
no.
especially as it relates to a special access program, either by name or trigraph.
Okay, and then are there, does the U.S. government or private contractors, they
Say again. Say again.
Why is hang on. Sorry, I was getting an echo because I have to listen to the YouTube. Yeah, because you've got those two at the top, but why is Boba sitting lower down? Is that some sort of slight, or is that her
No.
normal space? I don't know. I just noticed it.
Mason Growthorpe are the joint chair of the committee, so they'll be sitting higher.
Right.
That's all. That's all
Okay.
that is. It's not a slight. It's not.
I mean, I can see large interest from. But there's a lot of members of Congress there. There's clearly a lot of interest in listening to Elizondo.
Yeah. Oh, good. Right. Okay. So, yeah, he doesn't stop, does he? You know, I could tell you in a skiff, basically. Right. Let me carry on with this one.
Existence of any ongoing or past program, especially as it relates to a special access program, either by name or trigraph.
Okay, and then does the U.S. government or private contractors, they work with other foreign countries, China, for example, to exchange data, quote from a source, that intelligence data about UAP?
Let me see if I can answer that a little bit more generally, ma'am, if I may. We do have foreign material exploitation programs. That is something that is widely known, and that term itself is unclassified. How exactly that works becomes a bit sensitive. A discussion we could certainly have in a closed session if you like. We do work with international partners and allies quite often, not just in military exercises and workups, but in other intelligence efforts as well.
In terms of material that's given to private contractors, is certain material given to certain contractors because of their experience? So, for example, if it's related to submerged and undersea propulsion, would it go to a general contractor like General Dynamics?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely correct. Different contractors have different levels of expertise.
What's Lockheed's expertise?
Aerospace, ma'am.
In the UAP space, that's all that, they wouldn't do submerged?
No, I didn't say that, ma'am.
Okay.
Lockheed Martin and others do quite a bit of work both in our atmosphere, in space, and even underwater. There are certain efforts to.
Look at Schellenberger.
It's a tough question you're asking. Put me on the spot here.
I'm looking for the answer.
Yes, ma'am. No, they are involved in a lot. I would rather let Lockheed Martin explain the different domains that they are involved with. Probably am not authorized to discuss that, but.
Right. Let's just cut to the chase here. Lockheed Martin's a fucking company that does a lot of shit. You can talk about what Lockheed Martin does. And we know that, anyone with half a brain knows that Lockheed Martin has certain military stuff that they will keep secret. But we know where they work and what space they work in. So you're not fucking... He makes it out like he's giving away state secrets, when really he's telling you what a publicly traded company does. The guy's a wanker, isn't he?
Yeah. He's evasive, and he's not even. He's supposedly writing books about this stuff, but how is he able to write a book if he's not able to talk about anything apart from in a freaking secure thing?
There's nothing in his book. That's the problem, isn't it? There's nothing in his fucking book. Because he's a fucking intelligence asset that's still being used as an intelligence asset. He was an intelligence guy.
Yeah, and it's obvious now.
He doesn't want to not be part of the group. So he's found this role where he can pretend to be a civilian and still get paid by the DOD, no doubt, through the back door. Yeah. People that say this guy's risking his fucking life to bring this shit out, get a fucking life.
What a load of bollocks.
Nobody's fucking
if he was
interested.
risking his life, he'd actually be saying something more than, I can't talk about that.
I know. I'll be quite cruel here, but even fucking Stephen Greer says more than this cunt does. You know?
Yeah, you're not
I mean,
wrong.
really?
You're not wrong on either the content or the style of delivery. Or vocabulary, actually, as well. I thoroughly approve.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know.
it literally the whole thing is a massive waste of time.
It is. It is.
Literally.
I think we've seen enough, don't you?
I mean, obviously I don't think this show is a waste of time, and it's been fun
Oh no, it's
kind of picking this idiocy to pieces. But I honestly can't believe that the American government spent look. You're already 30 however many $trillion in debt, and you've just spunked another, I don't know,
just say 100 grand.
500 grand.
Just say 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just spunked 100 grand. I mean, this is why America is in masses of debt, because you have these idiots sitting in rooms talking nonsense. I mean, but it's not even. I can't even see the point in it, because they're not trying to discredit it. They're not saying that there's nothing going on. They're not saying that there is something going on. There's no new gun camera footage from the Pentagon. I mean, when this whole thing was announced, I actually thought it was going to be some military officers showing video of gun camera footage of ET or the Loch Ness Monster or something. But not Elizondo and Schellenberger. I mean, Schellenberger's gone down in my estimation. I thought he was a serious journalist, but I mean, this is nonsense.
That is nonsense, and you know, I just find it incredible that anyone can take this guy seriously. I mean, he's done. Good night, guys. The ones that are going. He's done. He did a whole series of tweets leading up to this as well. You know, promoting it like we do for the show, but you know, with more razzmatazz and actual video, you know, rather than just a tweet. But fucking unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. I mean, if anything, it really shows the cult off, because all his pals and all the people that want, and no, I'm not going to say want to believe, all the people that want you to believe are in the background making money off of this, you know, like the Naps and the Leslie Keens and Corbell and James Fox and all that. And I thought, I mean, when I watched that video, The Phenomenon by James Fox, I thought, what a load of fucking nothing. It was just a big nothing burger, you know? And these guys are built up to be disclosing stuff that's meant to be happening. There's nothing happening. You know, I mean, the fucking Brazilian thing was what was it? Fucking miners using jetpacks, ripping the piss out of the native. I mean, the whole thing's ridiculous. It's just.
I saw a triangle one recently that was quite good, like a week ago or something. Did I send that to you?
I'm not sure. Was it the Phoenix Lights? No.
No, it looked a bit. No, it wasn't the Phoenix
Yeah, it
Lights,
looked
but
like
it was a
Phoenix Lights.
big triangle.
Yeah.
But it's that's the thing is that big. I've for a very long time I've thought that whatever that triangular UFO is that a lot of people have seen, and like too many credible sightings for it to. And I mean, I think that one's government tech. I think that's some sort of.
No, it's not even government tech.
like-
it's a big balloon, mate. I've found it. It's in Arizona. There's a company that makes fucking huge triangular shaped balloons with lights inside them that they put up in the sky to gather, you know, air quality information and all this shit. And it's a giant.
People think they've seen the UFO.
Yeah, and people think they've seen it because it's traveling. They think they've seen a TR-3B, yeah, because it's traveling through the air at maybe, you know, 10 to 40 miles an hour or whatever, depending on how windy it is, and it's a big fucking balloon. That's what it is. It's incredible. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I saw the size of the thing. It's fucking ginormous. You know, they've got like I mean, it would be bigger than like. Let me think. It'd be bigger than a jumbo jet, you know, or it'd be about on size with a jumbo jet. You know, if you took the wingspan and made it
Yeah.
a big triangle. So absolutely mental what these things are. And yeah, they lost one during the Phoenix Lights, but they didn't want to tell anyone because they thought they'd lose their license. So there's a good chance that that's
Madness.
what they saw, you know, which is a shame. It's a shame because I've always wanted to believe in UFOs. I mean, don't get me wrong. I might sound like a fucking Debbie Downer when it comes to, you know, there's just so many problems in the way, right? That I find it hard to reconcile how anyone could get here. That's why I'm slowly coming round to two different conclusions that people aren't going to fucking. One of them, people are definitely not going to like once I come round to it. And it's not that there's nothing there. That's the thing. It's not that there's nothing there. That's not one of my conclusions. Because there are these things these things are there and unexplained. And there's got to be something that you know, even the abduction stuff. I'm not a great fan of the abduction stuff, and I'm going to do a video on Travis. What's his name, Walton, because that one's coming out the woodwork as well now. It's coming back to bite him in the ass because he stuck to his story, but unfortunately, some of his colleagues haven't. So yeah, that is. Yeah, Julie says it's quite right. It's like watching a good movie with a crap ending. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've got George Knapp's investigation alien stuff down. I started watching it last night. Oh, but yeah, I've done a video on the Manhattan alien abduction. You know, the one with Leslie Napolitano.
Cool.
So I've just got to finish editing it. It's ready to go. But yeah, it's
Awesome.
been a good night. That's 2 hours, mate.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, no, I need to go to bed.
Yeah, I know. Right, so we'll have a chat tomorrow. All things being good.
Yeah, no, I should be here. Yeah, we can do an all in.
And thank you,
There's
everyone.
plenty to talk about as always.
Thank you, everyone, for coming along and joining us. With that, all I can say is watch the sky.